first off, Kacey D, where is young Owen, by the way?
Oh, he's down here at my feet, like always, just hanging out. He feels a little embarrassed. He was rude last week, didn't say hi, so he's just chilling out.
When is Owen ever embarrassed?
He's not. You're right.
It's just one of those, don't wanna. It's the don't wanna gene.
Very fair.
In opening kickoff this morning, the question was raised once again by CR40, and he was in an interview with a host overseas, and he was asked if he was the better footballer or Lionel Messi. And Cristiano Ronaldo, of course, said that he was. And this once again stirs up the debate of who's the best one and what camp you are in when it comes to following Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi. Which camp are you in of those two?
Okay, I'm going to flip this on you. What camp do you think I'm in?
Oh, boy.
You've known me a little while now. What camp do you think I'm in?
I would think that you're Camp Messi.
100% Camp Messi. 100%. So.
Why?
I've got a couple things. A lot of it has to do that I did grow up an Argentina fan as well because I was.
Now, Jason will love you hearing this. So go, Kim.
I love Diego Maradona growing up. I watched like old VHS tapes of like the World Cup and, when he won and all those types of things in Mexico City. And so I just always loved Argentina. So there's a little bit of the heart with just following Argentina. But I think in and of himself, Messi being able to do the things that he can do, navigate traffic in midfield, score goals, provide, like just his all-around game to me, I am a huge fan of. And so I always have considered him the greatest just because of his all-around game.
Yeah, and so that's kind of where we are for the most part. There are those in the Twitch pitch and some of our OGs that are Ronaldo types. And it is, when he gets to 1,000 goals, the thought from one of our OGs this morning is hopefully we give him his flowers. I would sit there and say, dude went to Saudi Arabia and padded his stats, but that's just me as being a part of that message.
I really respect Cristiano Ronaldo's game as well. Obviously, one of the greats, an amazing goal scorer, athletically, technically, what he can do in and around the goal is unbelievable. But I would agree with you. And I think for me, it's not always just about the stats piece. It's like, how do you make teams around you tick as well? The fact that Messi can do that anywhere he goes, whatever he does, and makes everyone else better as well, I just think propels him.
All right, so that was the opening kickoff this morning. When we have something that is that glaring of a thing, but to the point of, you're not going to sit there and say, yeah, the other guy's better. I mean, that's just part of your own personal DNA. It's like when you were at North Carolina, when you were representing the country, when you're doing all these kinds of things, you're not going to sit there and go, yes, somebody's better than me. Players aren't wired that way.
No, and I think a lot of it comes down to preference too, for fans and for people watching the game. But yeah, if you're going to be asked, if you even think you're close, you're probably going to say yourself. So I don't fault that, whatever. I mean, how many years ago was it that Zlatan Ibrahimovic was asked who his starting 11 in the world would be, and he put himself in every position? Like, everyone's wired a little bit differently, and you have to be at that level and be that unbelievably great.
Absolutely. So that's the question I think I'm going to be asking everyone this morning, what team they're on, and we'll have that in the Twitch pitch also. NWSL was one of the marquee things I wanted to bring you in because we now have officially had Decision Day. How chaotic was it for you on Decision Day dealing with all of the math and the possibilities?
It was somewhat chaotic because I was on Angel City, Chicago, that did not have any playoff implications. It was the last game for Kristen Press and Allie Riley, two greats of the women's game. So that was nice and they both were able to get in the second half. So that was nice to be on the call for that. But most of what our coverage, I was with Joe Malfa as well, who does a lot of NWSL. He's the lead play-by-play for ACC men's soccer, and he'll be doing the College Cup. We did a lot of live look-ins of all the games, goals that were coming on, and things like that. So it was a different type of coverage for us, wanting to give, due to the game we were on, also to the two players retiring, but looking at the playoff implications. The biggest thing that happened really early was that North Carolina Courage went up very, very quickly on Gotham, which Not that it was unexpected, because we all know that the North Carolina Courage can score goals, they can figure it out, but they've had an up and down year, and Gotham has been in really good form. So once that happened, everyone around the league knew for the playoff line, Racing Louisville had to win, because it became pretty evident very early on within the first 20 minutes that the North Carolina Courage most likely were going to pull out a win. So that was the big one to watch. After that, it just became a matter of shuffling from 3 to 6, and figuring that out in game was like that my brain was going, but we stayed with it pretty well.
And the way that it does end up, it was Kansas City, obviously from pillar to post, 21 points clear of everyone else, which is just staggering when you think about it. And in 26 matches this season, goals against of 0.5, giving up 13 goals all season long in the regular season, and a goal difference of plus 36, which is also borderline insane. Washington at 44, they finished second. Portland by 1 goal in goal difference, which is also another part of the math that was taking place. You're going, oh my God, Portland and Orlando, it's the same record. What are we doing? And you're looking at scores. You literally are looking at scores in that aspect. So Portland at +7 over Orlando at +6. That's your 3-4. Seattle at 39 finishes the 5. San Diego finishes at 37 points. Once again, 10 different to the good over Racing Louisville. And then Gotham is your 8 at 36 points. Before we get into like individual matchups and everything, what does this say about the NWSL, where you have Kansas City that is all the way over here, and then you have the chaos basically of 3 through, and I'll go ahead and include Carolina, 3 through 9 when it comes to the competitiveness of the league in and of itself, where you have Kansas City, then you got Washington, and everybody else trying to chase into the playoffs. How competitive is this league for someone who hasn't seen it?
Unbelievably competitive. The only difference we're seeing this year is it's not 1 through 10 necessarily. Kansas City, as you mentioned, has really gone out way ahead to be, for an understatement, of what they've done. But the thing about this league that is so exciting is I watched like a North Carolina Gotham matchup this year, and I'm thinking going into the final week that Gotham is in too good a form. Like North Carolina doesn't have a chance, and not because they don't have the talent. And they've been perennial playoff contenders, and they've had a great history. But then they come back, and when their back's against the wall, they can pull it out. So there's all of these different pieces of the NWSL from 3 to 9, like you said, that if there's a tweak tactically here or there, it can really change everything. And so the coaching levels have really increased over the last few years, the player levels, but the league remains incredibly competitive, and it makes it fun. You're never going into decision day in the NWSL knowing exactly how things are going to work out. And that's fun for the fan.
Have you filled out your bracket yet?
No, I have not. But I technically could right now. I'm not covering any of the NWSL playoff games, so I need to take a look at that. But obviously, there's some great matchups between those teams.
And I know we'll kind of walk through them a little bit, but just the idea that I am seeing more folks shy away from Kansas City winning it all, and I'm seeing more folks loading into Washington winning it all. I know it's almost too easy to sit there and say that Kansas City is going to do damage and they're just going to lay waste to everybody and they're going to bring out the flamethrower and forget it. But I'm seeing a lot of folks drifting over to the Washington side of things to win it all in the postseason.
And I'm not surprised by that, honestly, because I think we all know that it can be so hard. One, to win the Shield, to win the championship is incredibly difficult. The other piece is when you've matched up twice in a season with the team, these coaches can adapt. Now, so can Vlatko, and he's shown that all year. So I don't think any of us will be surprised if Kansas City wins. That's kind of the easy choice is, okay, well, they were great. They had an amazing season that's never been done. They win the championship, expected. But if you're going to look at another team that could possibly do this, or if Kansas City trips up because of some of these tactical changes, or as we know in football, an off day of form, or there's some kind of field around the goal that just like the ball won't go in or something. We've seen weirder things happen. If they have one of those days, you're looking at someone like a Washington based on the attacking personalities that they have with the Spirit. they have come into really good form as well. But then you look at Trinity Rodman, who's dealing with injury, different things like that. There's a lot of different things at play.
So if we just sit there and we look at the grid here as we go into the postseason, and obviously 1, 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, and 4, 5, everything lines up starting on Friday. Orlando and Seattle. I don't know how many times you got to see either the Pride or the Reign this year, but when you look at Orlando and Seattle, what stands out?
The first thing that I think about is Orlando is the reigning champion. So they are starting their season over right now. They got into the playoffs. They had a good season, but I think they want to prove something, and they get a chance to do that. With Seattle, Laura Harvey has been able to have a really stingy defensive structure all year. She's made it difficult for teams to score on them. And she continues to prove that. I don't see her changing anything about that being what they rely on with the counterattacking transition. But they just faced Orlando on decision day. That brings in a different element of, do they both attack the game the same way? Seb Hines tends to like to switch things up a little bit. Laura Harvey, not as much, because she has found a solution that works for Seattle. So I think we're going to see more of the same.
Seattle, I mean, it's Saturday. Yeah, I've got S's on the brain here. I haven't had my caffeine yet. Washington and Racing Louisville. This one's going to be on Paramount Plus, at least on the domestic side of things, and on CBS. Noon kick on Saturday. When you look at this, obviously, for Washington, we know what to expect. Racing Louisville into the postseason for the first time, and it's almost like you're playing with house money. It's like, yeah, we're diving in. Everything's cool. You know, we'll just see what we've got, and we'll go ahead and just lay it all out there. Having that kind of an attitude going into a game where you're a decided underdog, I mean, obviously that to me is a plus, even if you're going into an environment, like you said, with Washington, even though that some of your stars are dinged up.
Well, like we said, they've already faced Washington twice this year, so there's no surprises there. And you're right. Not only did they get into the playoffs on the last day, they jumped to 7th. They were hoping just to get in. They jumped to 7th. They avoid the Kansas City Current. But then you've got Washington waiting on you, which is not an easy task. Louisville is one of those teams, like you said, playing with house money. They can just go after it. They're not going to change their style of play under Bev Yanez. Super happy for that coaching staff. They barely missed it last year, tied to get into the playoffs, lost it on the third tiebreaker. I believe it was a goal differential last year. And so your heart kind of goes out to this team. So I think they're just going to say, this is who we are. Let's give it everything we got against this Washington Spirit team. Going into, obviously, into DC will be difficult, but they're just kind of my team that, besides Kansas City, that I always look at them and go, they just figure it out. They're well structured. Their players step up in big moments, and they have a big amount of buy-in for not having been a club that's gotten into the playoffs. So now they've seen their reward.
Now, you mentioned Gotham as being on a bit of a hot streak, and there's nothing like rolling 7s and 11s at the table and continuing, and everybody's sitting there looking at, how you're on a roll. Okay, I'll go where you are. You know, I'll bet what you've got on the table. Gotham and Kansas City. I mean, everybody's going to look at this and go, okay, yeah, it's a 1-8, but I don't know how typical a 1-8 this is, considering it's Gotham and you're going up against Kansas City. This one, to me, everybody's sitting there looking at Washington. This might be that prime example as to why folks are looking at Washington, because you've got a hot Gotham team coming in against Kansas City in round 1.
This is not a 1-8 matchup, to your point. Not in the slightest. I think if Kansas City, after they took care of their early game on Sunday, is looking at the North Carolina Gotham game, the Racing Bay game, and I believe that if we're talking about Louisville or North Carolina playing Kansas City, it's a different conversation if they had been in the 8th spot. Gotham dropping there, I think, is the hardest thing for Kansas City Current. Do I think Kansas City can get past them? I do. Yeah. But this is a test. And you've got Rose Lavelle playing in some of the best form she's played in recently. You know, she's had injury issues and she's been out at times, coming back. She can change a game on her own. And so I think it's going to be really interesting to watch that matchup. And I don't necessarily think the Kansas City Current probably had it even in their mind that they thought they would play Gotham, but they know it's a possibility. But Gotham was up in 3rd and 4th at one point later in the season. So that shows you how tight these standings are and how quickly it can change.
Portland and San Diego is the back end of the doubleheader for ABC on Sunday. And this is big ABC. So it's noon and 3. Kansas City gets brunch, basically, and then Portland gets lunch. Portland and San Diego. San Diego finishes the season putting 6 on Chicago, and now they come into the postseason. Portland and San Diego, obviously, two West teams that like to trade haymakers at each other and just kind of sit there in the middle of the ring and take swings at each other. What are you looking at with Portland and San Diego?
For San Diego, if they can get a shutout, I think they win a playoff game. They have a lot of attacking personalities. So for me, it's if they can just stay in games, they eventually will have players like a Cascarino that's able to create off the side. And now Dudinha is starting to score goals. She scored to take the lead against Kansas City this past weekend. So I think that's easier said than done with Portland, but I think for San Diego, it's just that structural piece and the consistency of doing it week in and week out. But they're a team that's loaded with talent. Their biggest issue is kind of figuring out the 9 position. They've had a couple different players rotate through there. Leon was in there at times. Corley would step up there, and she also plays in the 10. Ascanio, who's very young, talented, has gone between the 10 and the 9 at times. So there's just a lot of different attacking options, but that's been some of their biggest issues. I don't think that Portland can necessarily keep them from scoring. So it's a matter of, okay, how many goals is Portland going to score? So that one could be a bit of a shootout, I think, in Portland, but you never know.
Absolutely. All right. So I'm trying to find some breaking news collaboration here, and it's from Tom Bogert, and it has to do with North Carolina FC. Bogert is reporting as of a little after 9 o'clock. North Carolina FC informs players they will not be fielding a team in 2026. They have a playoff game on Saturday against Rhode Island FC. Sources expect, according to Bogert, the club will finish their playoff run. Players with contracts now end after 2 months. And so we'll keep an eye on that. And somewhat side, as a part of the organization, how does this affect Courage? Obviously, we'll keep an eye on that. But that breaking news out of North Carolina FC and Tom Bogert this morning. Let's get into the colleges real quick. We're getting into getting toward conference play and ACC and SEC and things like that. What are you staring at when it comes to ACC and SEC and college soccer heading into the weekend?
Well, I'm on the ACC semifinals. Very excited about that. You've got Virginia, Notre Dame, you've got Stanford, and you've got Duke. All 4 of them in this game or in this tournament. Yeah. Excuse me. These are 4 of the top 7 teams in the country. So you can't really argue with the fact that they got it right, and the right teams are in this, and it's the right teams that are going, the teams that have gone through the ACC gauntlet and just really figured out how to do things. Virginia took Florida State 2 penalties, and it was a tight game. So it was really exciting. Duke gets the 1-0 win over Louisville to be able to come in, and Notre Dame and Stanford have just been hanging around a little bit and just waiting to see what they were going to do. So this will be really fun. I'm with Glenn Davis on these, and going to be very exciting.
Well, and when you get to hang out with another one of our OGs in Glenn Davis, it's always a good time.
Exactly.
And Glenn is one of those. Literally, Glenn is one of those flag bearers. Regardless, I finally got to see what there it is.
As I talk about the ACC with my Tar Heels not being
well,
there,
but you gotta flash it. You gotta flash the alma whenever you can. But no, I mean, Glenn is a great ambassador, regardless of level. It could be Major League Soccer, could be college. You put Glenn in any situation, and it's a joy to hear him, because of the passion that he has with the game itself, and it carries into each individual matchup. And he's a guy that you get to learn a lot from when you're just hanging out with him, even if the light's not on and you're not even calling a game. You get to learn a lot about Glenn, his passion, and the game when you get to hang out with him.
What a pleasure it's been to work with Glenn Davis. I remember listening to so many games that he called at the highest level. And like you said, across a ton of different levels. He's such a pleasure to work with, an amazing guy, amazing human being. And I started working with him about 2.5 years ago through the college game. And I just feel like the thing I could say about him, besides him being an amazing human, is he makes me better on the air. That's a sign of a pretty amazing broadcaster, when you have your partner at ease and you just enjoy calling the game. There's no worries. I know he's got the broadcast and I can go where I need to go. And I mean, his background in the game, just everything. So I'm really excited to be with him for these last 3 games.
One more thing before you get to make sure that no one goes outside, because I know that he probably just wants either chicken or a walk or both. MLS playoffs last night, we had Seattle in their game number 2 heading to a game number 3. They got out to an early start. Apparently we can't have nice things, because then Minnesota United decided to turn it into MLS After Dark. We've got games heading into match day 3s. What do you think about the folks heading into match day 3s and what you've seen so far?
Oh my goodness. I could not stay up for the game. I tried so hard. But I had the NWSL Decision day before. I flew back yesterday. I was trying so hard, and they scored those 2 goals. Minnesota did right before half in that 8 minutes of extra time. And I was like, you got to be kidding. So I gave it about 15 minutes and was falling asleep, not because of the game, because I was exhausted. We're at the end of the year. That was fun. Seattle, I do think, is going to have to keep scoring, though, if they want to take out Minnesota, because we know Minnesota's efficiency. Everyone's looking at Inter Miami, Nashville. I mean, come on. It's going back to Miami. We had the Decision day result with all the goals. We've had and that ended up with Inter Miami's win. And you have the first game Inter Miami win, the second game Nashville win. That's the one that I'm really excited about. I'm hoping for a lot of goals, because I just want to see a lot of goals, a lot of fun. You know, the purists out there might say, let's see who can get the shutout and get the 1-0 win, but I don't think that's anything we're going to see with Nashville.
No. All right. So you and the OG Glenn Davis are doing college this week and this weekend. What's your rundown for the rest of the week before we catch up with you again?
So Virginia Stanford will be one of the semifinal games, and then Duke Notre Dame. Duke did lose to Notre Dame earlier in the year, so that's a rematch there. And then that will be Thursday night on the ACC network, both of those games back to back. And then Sunday we'll have the championship at noon on ESPN.
And we will be catching up with you about that stuff when you come back and visit next week, because then we'll be heading into postseason and we'll be talking colleges. As always, KCD, great to catch up with you. And I'm fairly certain that someone knows it's the end of a segment. And he's like, all right, good. Let's get into the kitchen, because it's all about me. It is all about me. As always, Kacey, great to see you, my friend. And enjoy your calls with the OG Glenn Davis. We'll catch up with you soon.
Awesome.
There
Have
we
a
go,
great show.
KCD. Where's she be? She be heading to the ACC.